What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Jacked Ramsays pregame show. I'm your host, Danny Marang. No Brandon Sprague today. He's a traitor. Well, that's how it goes. Instead, we got a replacement, and I think we did better. I know we did better. John Karalis of Locked On Celtics, Locked On NBA, and Boston Sports Journal. Did I get it all?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. For now. John's been covering the Celtics for a long time.
Now and get the end of the game, sure.
John's been covering this team incredibly well for a long time, and again, as I always say, everybody can eat. We are definitely good friends with Mike Richmond and the Locked On Network, and John has done a great job over there for a long time. Man, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
That's my pleasure, man. Always fun to talk some basketball with you.
Hey, man, both these teams are kind of in weird, funky places. The Blazers have finally made their moves, but the Celtics made their moves in the offseason. Obviously, moving Brad Stevens up a few chairs from the coaching line to the general manager's office, and Portland's own, the illustrious, the lovely Ime Udoka to the coaching chair, the head chair. What is going on?
It's like The Good Place. Why? And also, how?
Yeah, very much.
So why are the Celtics? This is a tough year. I came into this thinking that this was going to be an evaluation year. And it's hard to kind of keep sight of that as the season progresses, right? Because once you start the season, it becomes all about the wins and losses. And it's hard to really pull back and say, no, big picture, everybody, because this team does still have talent. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, I think is a pretty good point guard and, an elite defender. You've got talent. You've got the potential for talent. You've got a bunch of question marks that can be good and we're hoping can still be good. But, for now, it's not quite where they want it to be. Obviously, they win a couple, lose a couple, juggling around 500. But what they're trying to figure out this year is what do they have with Jason Tatum, especially, but Tatum and Brown.
Yeah.
What are these guys? Are these guys your MVP candidate and a 1A kind of also can take over sort of, I don't want to say sidekick, but partner in crime? Mm-hmm. Do the Celtics make a Drew Holiday type of trade for that third kind of helper piece that's connective tissue? Or is Tatum going to just be a bountiful scorer, a glorified Carmelo Anthony in some people's opinions? Is Jaylen going to be in that same kind of range? And do you need to get a third star? Do you need to put all of these other pieces that you have, your Marcus Smarts, your younger players, some draft picks or all of your draft picks, and go after, Bradley Beal's been the popular name. I don't think he's leaving Washington, but that type of player. And that's what this season is about. And Ime Udoka is pushing Jason Tatum hard to become the type of MVP candidate that makes players better. Not just goes out there and drops 35, but drops 28 and has 8 assists and 8 rebounds, a steal, and a couple of blocks. Like, that's what he's pushing. So you're really trying to see Tatum get off the ball and move the ball and start to learn how to cut, because he hasn't really been a great cutter. So that's where the Celtics are. And that's why they're up and down. Some days they have it all together. Their energy is right. Their focus is right. And you go toe-to-toe with the Magic, or you go into Miami and you beat the Heat handily. And then sometimes the focus isn't there. You get down 20 in the first quarter, San Antonio, and you lose.
This sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah, that's where the Celtics are right now. So it's a lot, but that's kind of who they are. It's up and down, and the pessimists see all the negatives and go, these guys can't do it. And the optimists see all the positives and go, oh man, I feel like they're that close. And yeah, you probably understand that concept very well.
Yeah, no, we've been kind of stuck running on that rat wheel for a while now. This is what happens when you make the wrong choices over the course of 6 years. You end up where Portland is at right now. When you look at Tatum's game, I look at the Celtics right now and I see a team that makes a lot of sense on paper. Maybe doesn't fit perfectly, but a lot of things I think on the top end make sense. Jason Tatum this year hasn't made sense. He's underperformed as a shooter, as a scorer. His shot profile has changed from heavy analytics driven to maybe a little too much Mamba Tatum. Is that kind of? Do you think that's kind of a driving factor in why the Celtics have kind of sputtered offensively?
I think. Well, yeah. I mean, the Celtics offense lives and dies with Tatum, right? So that's and they are trying to make that the case by forcing him to be a ball mover and be a higher assist guy. They want him to fuel the entire offense, but that's what any great team has, right? You get your KDs and your LeBrons, and you get the one.
You need your engine,
of course. So where do I see him? Like right now, I'm looking at his shot selection, his distances, and he's he's skewing a little more mid range than I'd like, and it feels like he likes shooting in the mid-range because he thinks that's his shot. And it's not really. Now this year he's shooting 47.5% in that 16 feet and beyond range, which is the best he's ever shot. So it's still not up around 50. It still needs to get a little bit better to be like super elite in that range, but he's still a little too much there, to your point, for my liking. But I think there's going to be a little bit of give and take. I think at the beginning of the year, he was trying to get to the rim a lot, and he wasn't getting those calls, and he got super, super frustrated. I think he kind of backed off those. I do think he needs to get back on that. But the one thing he really needs to do is become a better ball handler before a lot of this stuff is going to work. You still see him trying to make these drives, and he just loses the ball. And it's been a problem. You can't blame it on the Wilson ball because he did it with the Spalding ball. It's just something that he just needs to tighten up. And it's hard for a guy of his size to also be like dribbling really low below his knees, like Chris Paul. Like that's hard to ask. But
Paul George is really the only guy who consistently does it without having a handle that's just a little loose.
Right. And that's exactly it. Tatum's handle is a little too loose to do a lot of the things, especially fourth quarter, tight game, and you're throwing double teams at him. You'd love to see him. Sure, Ime wants him to pass out of those. You'd also like to see him maybe quickly, split that double team or, spin away from the guy who's doubling, recognize where it's coming, spin away the other way and make a play that way. And he kind of is almost there, and then he'll lose the ball sometimes. Or sometimes he'll just lose his focus. But look, he's 23, 24 years old. He's going to turn 20.
He's still 19, John.
Yeah, that's right. He's still. So I think there's still room for him to grow into that stuff. He's being asked to do a lot, and I think to sum it up, he's uncomfortable doing all of this new stuff, and I think it's occupying space in his brain. All of this other stuff that Ime is asking him to do, it's occupying space in his brain. And that's taking away from the processing power of all the other stuff that he used to do a little bit better than he's doing right now. Just like any computer, when you add a new app and it's taking a processing power and you're like, why doesn't this other thing run like the way it's supposed to? That's kind of what's happening with Tatum.
So Tatum's going through this. Brown's been nicked up, obviously not playing tonight against Portland. What's going on with Smarf?
Well, you kind of got like, he's having such an interesting season. So he came into the season. I feel like, and this is just my guess, I feel like he came into the season like a little pissed off, and I think it's because of the Schroeder signing. I think because he got his deal. When Ime was hired, it was all about Smart's going to have the ball. We want him to be the starting point guard. And like I had a one-on-one interview with him before the season started, and he was excited about, being a starting point guard. And he started to rattle off every point guard the Celtics got since they drafted him. And like once one went out, a new one came in, and it really bothered him. And look, they didn't go out signing Schroeder saying, boy, we need another point guard because we don't trust Marcus Smart. Schroeder just happened to fall into their lap. Like you go into a thrift store, one of those flea markets that pops up, and you say, oh, wow, this is awesome. And look how cheap it is. And like, do we really need that? Like, I don't know, but we'll find a place for it because it's so awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And, and it's $5. And that's basically what the Shooter was. And he just happened to be a point guard. And Marcus is like, Really? Again? Like, again, you're doing this? That's my feeling. I can't confirm that, but that's my feeling. I think he's since kind of come away from that. When Jaylen is healthy, then Schroeder goes to the bench and Marcus Smart is the point guard. And Smart as the point guard with Jaylen and Jason is playing really well. He's averaging over 7 assists per game. He's, shooting well or better. Nobody's shooting well in the Celtics.
Yeah.
His shot profile when he's the starting point guard is more the distribution between above the break and corner threes is a little more even, still too much above the break, but many more corner threes. And he's shooting somewhere around 50% on those. So that's fine. Like, I'm fine with Marcus Smart taking the corner threes, but the in and out of Jaylen and Schroeder. And when Schroeder starts, he becomes the primary ball handler and Smart shifts over to shooting guard. And that starts him in the corner, and you know how it goes. You start in the corner, then you start to rotate up. Now you're taking more above the breakthroughs. Yeah. That's why I like him starting with the ball. Then you rotate over, and then you're catching it in the corner. So it's a little bit different. His defense is still really, really, really good. His motor is still really, really high. He's still trying to execute Ime Udoka's plan. Every time, like, you can see him calling for, even off of makes, come on, let's go, give it to me and run. He's trying to push the pace. And because that's what Ime wants, faster basketball. But he's up and down. His shooting is caught up in the same weird kind of toilet flush that everybody's shooting is caught up on in Boston. And
that'll change the night, by the way.
Oh, well, good. That's good to know.
No. Portland is the cure-all for all of your ills. That is that 1-800 get your jumper right. That is what Portland's that has been their mark this season. The San Antonio Spurs are the worst 3-point shooting team in the league, and they came in and went 11 of 23 from threes in the first half. So, lo and behold, that'll likely change tonight.
Well, that's good news for the Celtics. They actually didn't shoot bad against the Jazz. Their offense was better against the Jazz. It's kind of funny, like two top 6 offenses, top 5 offense. Yeah. Defenses. And they go 137-130, which is like, how weird is that? But yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe from the Celtics perspective, I'm sure they hope you're right.
Listen, I've taken the over in almost every single game this year, and I think I'm up like 70% right now. I got to double check. I have not taken the over in 3 games. That's it. Wow. And they have hit on, I think, all but 5. So I think I'm what is that, like 15-6, something like that on the overs.
Pretty good.
Yeah, no, Vegas has no idea with this team. I don't know why. It's been very interesting.
Close your eyes, throw a dart, be like,
oh yeah, no. I played a game to start the season. If it was under 229, I took it blindly. I didn't care, just because they weren't stopping anybody. They really haven't since. And we kind of talked about it a little bit. They're going to be missing a lot of names on the marquee tonight. No Damian Lillard, no Jaylen Brown, no Al Horford, no Anfernee Simons, no Nassir Little. Have we heard yet? Is Romeo going to give it a go?
I haven't heard officially. In about 15 minutes, we're going to get Ime Udoka
in the press conference.
And we're going to figure out what's going on with Romeo. But right now, I'm assuming it's going to be he'll test it out, and we're going to find out if he tests it. But I guess I'll tweet it out in about 20 minutes.
So there's some guys missing. Norman Powell apparently picked up a nasal fracture. I'm assuming somehow in practice. He is probable. So the Blazers went from having one of the healthiest rosters in the league to getting decimated in the span of a couple days. This is good times. Everybody's asking, so I'm going to skip some of the game stuff because I want to make sure we get you out of here on time. Portland Trailblazers fired their GM. Did you hear?
Really? That's so shocking to me.
In lieu of that, Danny Ainge's name has been linked by. Well, I think the second Neil was fired, I think Chris Mannix had a tweet that Danny Ainge was interested in the job, or Danny Ainge had been linked to the job. Sure. Danny obviously has ties to both organizations, both the Blazers and the Celtics. He still spends time here in Oregon. He still spends time in Boston, and he's spending most of his time in Utah right now working as a consultant for the Jazz. Do you think Danny is interested in a Portland Trailblazers job where he has to trade C.J. McCollum in the next 45 days?
I'm sure there's a piece of him that's like, oh man, I'd love to get back into the action. But I think one of the reasons that he left the job in Boston was because he I think he'd had enough of the grind. And, look, he has personal goals as well. He is a devout Mormon, and being in Utah keeps him close to something that's very important to him. Mm-hmm. And, obviously a lot of family over there. And so that I think is going to be hard to take him away from, especially since he does have a connection to the NBA there. To go back into a situation, like let's look at it from Danny's perspective. Mm-hmm. At this point in his career and at this point in his life, what's he going to want to walk into? He's going to want to walk into a situation where you're going to have to trade CJ McCollum in that contract and try to make Damian Lillard happy. And it's kind of a mess of a.
It's not kind of. It's a mess.
Like it's. I don't think he wants that. If he was going to jump into a GM job, I think he'd want to be like, all right, I've got this pile of assets to trade. Here's my draft assets. Here's my player assets.
OKC, Toronto.
Yeah.
Give me something with some assets to kind of work with for a few years.
Something where I can like, all right, I'll give you a 5-year plan. Here's this, here's that. Boom, 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 boom. This, you got to strip it down. And I'll be honest with you, if he comes in, then he's going to strip it all down. Yeah. And Dame's gone too. Like that's what Dame, like if you do get Danny Ainge, which just for the record, I do not think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't either.
He's kind of happy where he is. He gets to golf all day and just kind of live a very happy life. He's had 2 heart attacks. And I don't think he's like ready to get back onto that grind, but let's just kind of assume, let's just throw it out there for conversation. If he comes into Portland, he's not coming in to build around Dame. He's coming in to tear this sucker down and get the assets. Like if he's looking at that and saying, I got nothing, then he's dangling Dame. He's dangling.
He's got 6 first-round draft picks in Damian Lillard, and then whatever he gets from everybody else.
That's everything, and he's going to say, okay, it's all coming down to the ground, and we're going to rebuild it back up. So that's if that's what you want, and you want to push hard and somehow make Danny Ainge some sort of offer he can't refuse. That's what he's going to come in and do. He did it in Boston, and that's kind of like the easy part. Selling pieces off is the easy part. What's he going to do after?
Finding people who want your Hall of Famers is easy.
Yeah,
turns out.
But but like I said, for the record, I don't think Ainge is going to be the guy. I don't think he really truly wants to be the guy.
When you look at this game tonight, you got 2 teams that are hovering that 500 line that I think are underperforming on sides of the floor that they shouldn't necessarily be at the level that they're at. And people are going to think that I'm talking about Portland's defense, but I'm actually talking about Portland's offense. Because as good as they have been by, standard measurements, you look at them and you go, they're still not the team that they look like they should be. And granted, without Damian Lillard, they're not going to. That's kind of how that works. But Boston, we've kind of danced around a little bit. Why the hell can't they hit anything anywhere?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's like, it's hard to explain. Like, I don't know what their most recent numbers were, but on wide open 3-pointers, they're one of the worst teams in the league.
So it's just there's some bad shooting variance
there's
going
just,
on.
Just some real bad shooting. Also, let's be real. They have guys who shouldn't surprise you that Dennis Schroeder has some sketchy shooting numbers. But I wrote a piece like a few days ago where it was Tatum was 7% off his last year's shooting. Horford was 8% off last year's shooting. A couple other guys, like even Marcus
looking
Smart,
at their accuracy, just going by cleaning the glass. Tatum is in the 50th percentile or lower in every single category except for long mid, and he's 54th percentile.
Yeah,
and that should not happen for a guy like Jason Tatum.
No, it shouldn't. And I think this is kind of like it's kind of permeated the entire team. Like I said, I think part of it is the learning process that you've spent so much time defensively, especially learning what Ime wants. And this November was in October, a sort of extended preseason for these guys. Mm-hmm. Like I said, when you are thinking so much and something is occupying your brain's processing power, it does take a toll on the other stuff. And when you are trying to do things that you haven't done in the past, whether it's all of the switching that they started out doing defensively, or whether it's moving the ball and running an offense at a speed that you've never been comfortable with, there is going to be some sort of impact. And it seems like the impact is on their shooting accuracy. So there are going to be guys like Schroeder, like Josh Richardson, Marcus Smart, that aren't going to give you a ton of great shooting, but even they are shooting below their averages from the past. So they're
one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league right now.
Right. And we knew coming into the season that they were going to be a bad shooting team, but they're not even getting anything from the younger guys like Aaron Nesmith and Peyton Pritchard,
who should profile as much better shooters.
The whole summer league and preseason was about Peyton Pritchard pulling up from 29 and Aaron Nesmith
being a 44% guy.
Yeah. Like he spent the entire summer league, and I thought it was very translatable, hunting out difficult shots and making those difficult shots. And I was like, this is great because these are the shots you're going to get in the NBA. And he's just way, way off. He's thinking too much. He's trying too hard. And it just mentally, I think he's just toast right now. And I've been saying, like, please get him to the G League for like 2 or 3 games.
Well, he's going to play Portland tonight. It's going to help.
Yeah, he might. Well, I mean, they're shorthanded enough where he might.
If he gets real burn tonight, I legitimately, it is a better than a coin toss opportunity that he will get the looks that he needs to feel comfortable. And I don't say that like even jokingly. Yeah. Everybody who has wanted a look, if you look for it, it is there. That has been Portland's MO this season. That kind of gets me where I want to go with this real quick before we get you out of here.
Yeah.
What matchup are you looking at tonight with so many guys out and so many things kind of sideways? It's going to be a CJ McCollum featuring attack with him and Norman Powell. Yusuf Nurkic obviously is going to probably factor in. Well, I shouldn't say obviously because he's kind of waned and gone back and forth here.
Yeah.
But without having a real big, in the past, you had Tice there who I think had done decently well against Nurk in some of these matchups without, either him or Horford. I mean, what do you look at in this kind of game?
Well, I mean, I do think that it's going to be interesting to see them put like Nurk in the pick and roll because you're going to have Robert Williams and he's going to put a ton of pressure on the rim. So, I mean, he's going to drop and what you're going to see is the Celtics are a more mid-range heavy team than most. So I think you're going to see a lot of pull-up jumpers. And I think it might come down to someone, Schroeder, he loves those right elbow jumpers. So, Schroeder off the pick and roll where Nurk has to like really, really worry about Robert Williams catching lobs, and you're going to get pull up 15, 16 footers. If those start to fall, and then you got to come up a little bit, and then it's going to be lobs to Robert Williams, and then it's going to be toast. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. And then defensively, just take CJ completely out of this. Figure out a way, just
hunt him.
I mean, yeah. So the Celtics should have defensively. They should have everything that they need to force turnovers, force missed shots, and get out into transition. And in the half court, pick and roll them to death. And let's test that pick and roll defense and see because you got Robert Williams, because in Schroeder and in Marcus Smart and Robert Williams run that pick and roll beautifully. I think you're going to see a lot of that, and I want to see how that goes.
That's going to lead me into like it, love it, leave it. And that's a quick segment where I ask you, what would you love to see tonight? What would you like to see tonight? And what the hell are you leaving behind for the Celtics to win tonight?
Okay. What would I love to see tonight is the Celtics come out in the first quarter and not play down after a really tough back-to-back and come out with some energy and understand that you have an opportunity here against the decimated Blazers team to put up a big first quarter and then, carry that through. I want to see some consistency. I would like to see Jason Tatum hit a few shots. I'd really like to see Jason Tatum start to get going a little bit. He hit a couple last night that I thought, okay. Including like a weird tough one at the end where it didn't really matter, but it went in, and it's like one of those like, okay.
It's a confidence booster.
Yeah, if that's going in, like, okay, maybe something can carry over. What am I leaving behind? Hopefully we can leave behind just like the general offensive like malaise. Like I want to leave ISO ball behind. We saw them kind of do a little bit too much of that against the Jazz, but I want to see, if nothing else, the ball movement and leave behind those bad habits of seeing a bad team in front of you and just like, I got this, and going ISO all the time. I want to see the ball moving. I want to see the ball popping.
All right, coming into tonight, the local sports book had the coin toss, -1 for the Blazers. It is vacillated between -1 for Portland, -1 for the Celtics. It's basically a coin flip. Straight up, Portland was a -120, and the over-under line was 211. What in there sounds spicy to you?
I'm surprised Portland's favored.
I honestly, too, the only reason I think that they are is because of that Utah-Portland back-to-back as hell.
That's true. That's true.
It's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I think Vegas generally knows what they're talking about. I know you said they don't when it comes to Portland.
When it comes to Portland, they are a weird bird, man. Let's see if I can get the actual line right now. Live line is now -120 for Portland. It opened at -110, but Portland is still favored.
Wow. Okay. I don't know.
Celtics in the point sounds good to you, huh?
It does. It really does.
Listen, you're not hurting my feelings, man.
It really does.
That's been. Listen, Portland only has 2 home losses, but their last game against San Antonio Spurs was an epic shellacking where they did not show up.
Yeah.
And I think that eventually kind of kicked ownership around a little bit to the point of we have to do something, and that was the dismissal of Neil Olshey. How the Portland Trailblazers react to that, maybe Vegas is pointing at that. Instead of a fired coach bump, you're getting a fired general manager. Excuse me, fired president of basketball operations. How dare I forget his title as a motivating factor for the Portland Trailblazers tonight. All right, we'll get you out of here so you can go catch Ime's press conference. Thank you, John. Let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis. All my work's on Boston Sports Journal. My podcasting on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Celtics, Locked On NBA.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Remember, guys, you can follow us at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague, at Jacked Ramsays. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Do all of the things. If you're watching here live on YouTube or watching the replay, roll your thumb over, click the subscribe button, help us grow the channel. We're almost at 2,200 subscribers over the past, 2-3 months now. So thank you all so very much. The live memberships are now up on the page. To be a part of the watch party, you will have to do that. That's how we have to filter, because we can only have 200. But thank you all so very much. The support has been incredible. We'll catch you for the post game. Again, no Brandon efforting somebody for the post game. Not sure yet.